Vicky, I know you're based more in inner London, so what are you experiencing kind of locally in your area?
More of the same. I mean, some of the instructions that I've seen come on lately, I'm like, really? With other agents. And one thing that we've always tried to do is ensure that we're always pricing accurately and using the offers in excess of strategy to enable people to sort of effectively, once it gets to the bidding war, which 99% of the time in the last couple of years it was, people were, paying what they were prepared to in order to secure the property. So we were averaging out at 103.3% of marketing price. Now, looking across the board, the average for our area seems to hover around the 98% mark, which shows that actually even in a booming market, it's still going on for slightly more. Now, agents will continue doing that. Sadly,
value in London, don't they?
Massively, massively. And you just think, and more often than not, guys, it is literally to secure the instruction or they haven't prepared enough for the valuation. But that will bite them in the bum, in my opinion, especially moving forward. Because I think it was earlier this year, Paul, where you guys were talking about data on a recent webinar. I'm a massive fan of your data. The number of homes that were selling with a second agent was actually at the lowest ever level. I think it was hovering around 9%, 7%.
It's 4 or 5%.
Wow.
It's really low.
Yeah, it's mad. Yeah.
So that's insane. Now, if we assess that in comparison to what we were experiencing in 2016, my data showed in 2016 that number was actually closer to 60%. Now, I do see that number shifting again. So we're going to go from the 4 or 5% that you guys have been assessing recently, and that number's going to start increasing drastically because that won't work anymore.
Yeah.
And agents will end up, or sellers, sorry, a larger proportion of sellers are going to end up selling with the second agent. Yeah. And the second agent's going to have a much better opportunity because they've already been exhausted online at a much higher level than they should have been. Yeah. And prices will continue to come down. I think that's the shift we're going to see.
Yeah. Great. And Chris?
Certainly overvaluing has one part, but I actually think the stats tell another story. And I believe, just to give you an idea, in outer London, the average asking price of a property coming on the market in January was 526,000, and today it's 583,000. And in London, the average price coming on the market in January was 387, and today it's 451. And I believe this, looking at the stats that 20EA put on and anecdotal evidence in the market, is this. There's more larger houses coming on the market this year because of people downsizing, people who have lived, the people where their kids flew their nest, they're in their 70s, their 60s and 70s, and the bills that have hit them, they think we need to sell. Because what is absolutely fascinating is what happens with, and again, I think estate agents need to realise this, is that, since lockdown 50% of the sales that have taken place, the homeowners have only been in their house 6 years and 4 months or less. So when you actually drill down even more, what you tend to find is this. The people who buy the starter homes tend to move every 4 or 5 years. So they move in their 30s and 40s, but as soon as they hit their 50s or late 40s, they tend to stay in their house for 25 years. So what you end up having is like a 2-speed property market with the and if you were a smart estate agent, you would focus your attention on the starter market because they're the ones that tend to churn every 3 or 4 years. But we've got these big lump of people who've been in their houses, who are in their 70s, possibly early 80s, who've been in their houses for 25, 30 years. And we all know damn well we have parents and grandparents that we would love to, come on, mum, time for you to move. But now they're gas built because they've got big houses, they've got their fixed incomes. You've got gas bills where, it costs an average $4,500 to heat a house of that size, and it was really only 2. They've got fixed incomes. I think what we've got is, I don't know if you're noticing this, but anecdotally, and this figure suggests this nationally, more bigger houses are coming onto the market, which is the reason why a lot of that isn't, because overvaluing was around in 21, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Overvaluing was around in 2020.
Around.
It's always been around. That growth in asking price, more bigger houses are coming on the market. And I think the clever estate agents are the ones that are focusing. Why don't you go and focus on the bigger stuff and say, are you in your 70s, 80s, worried about bills? We'll find you a lovely family to move to your home. But then the other school of thought is they're then worried what they're going to buy. So again, great estate agents go and find them their house. And they use data, and there's other sources out there of data you can use to find those properties and move them into. Hey, we've got to start being like estate agents and not just like order takers where let's whack it on Rightmove and it'll sell. We have to be move makers, not just order taker sellers.
Yeah, agree.